Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a fabulous day. Today I want to do an updated wear and tear on the Vuitton Speedy 25 Bandouliere. I hope that you enjoy this video. If you do, make sure and give it a thumbs up. And without further ado, let's get started, shall we? I did an in-depth review on this bag where I covered the pros and cons a while back, and I will make sure and put that video on the description box below if you wanted to check it out. Today I mostly wanted to focus on how it's been wearing these last couple of years, but I still wanted to cover some highlights just to have a little bit more information. Now, I got this bag in February of 2017 and I have used it to death. It's become one of my top bags. It was actually one of my most used bags of 2017 and it was one of my most used bags of 2018, and I absolutely love it. Now, since this item is made up of two pieces, the strap and the bag, I thought I would begin with the bag as far as wear and tear. The first thing that I want to start off with is something that I have noticed of all Speedies, not necessarily the Bandouliere, but again, I wanted to throw this out there just in case, and that's the tabs. The tabs that are on the interior seem to become a lot more prominent on the exterior. So see these little parts right there, right above the handles? You can almost see like there's a little bit of a bump. It almost looks like the canvas is splitting, but the canvas is still in good condition. I haven't had any issues with cracks. I haven't had any issues with loose stitching there either, but I just noticed that the tabs end up being a lot more noticeable, and I'm talking about these tabs right there. So it is very normal for that to happen. I remember the first time I saw it, I was freaking out. I was like, oh man, my bag is gonna start cracking there. But yes, you will notice that the little tabs on the interior seem to be a lot more noticeable. I haven't had too many issues with the hardware. I haven't had any problems with discoloration on the zipper or on the zipper pulls. I haven't had any type of chipping on that either. However, on the sides, on these little rings where I end up attaching the strap, right in the middle, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it or not, I have a slight discoloration. It's a little bit darker, but that's just from the metal on the removable strap that ends up rubbing on this part of the ring. So it's not too bad, but it is slightly noticeable, and I also have some superficial scratches, nothing to cause concern or anything like that. And again, I haven't experienced any type of chipping on there. And I also haven't had any issues with discoloration or any type of chipping on the hardware that ends up holding up the handles either on either side. Now the Vachetta, in my opinion, I think it's in excellent condition. It does have a nice, even golden honey patina, which I absolutely love. You guys know that. I don't use any conditioners. I don't use any guards for any of my bags. I don't do anything to the leather. I let the oils in my hands do all the work for me. And I honestly think that ends up working out the best, but it's definitely a matter of personal preference. Now, one thing to note is that I don't use this bag in the rain because, of course, the leather ends up getting those water stains if you're not careful, because again, I don't end up using any type of guard, which I'm totally fine with. And one other thing, I also haven't experienced any type of color transfer because this bag, I mostly end up using it crossbody, and I do wear a lot of dark colored clothing. I do wear a lot of denim, and I haven't had any issues with the corners or the sides of the bag getting any type of color transfer. So nothing there and nothing there. And the canvas is in great condition. I haven't had any issues with any type of cracking. I haven't had any issues with discoloration. Sometimes the canvas gets these little white marks on the edges, sometimes from where it ends up rubbing on either an abrasive surface, but I haven't had any issues with that either. And I also haven't had any issues with the lining. And there we go. It's still in pretty good condition. Of course, it's going to be impossible to see just because it looks dark, but so far so good. No problems with this bag whatsoever. I don't really use this interior pocket either. Sometimes I have used it for my key fob. Other times I've used it for like gum, but for the most part, I don't really, it just kind of sits there. You know what I mean? I just like to be able to have the speed and throw everything in there. I don't use an organizer with this bag, even though I do like organizers. I don't necessarily like to use it with this bag just because I think it makes it a little bit more, confined. And I also haven't had any issues with the piping. Now, sometimes because of this silhouette and with use, sometimes you will end up noticing that the piping ends up kind of showing through right around these edges. That's usually where the wear ends up being the most noticeable, but so far, so good. And I haven't really babied this bag besides the fact of not using it in the rain. I just use it like so, and I think it is absolutely amazing. And I'm going to take it one step further because I know it's a little bit harder to see when I'm kind of holding it up and it looks like a weird angle. I'm actually going to take video of it just so you guys can see it up close. That way I'm not in the shot, and you can really end up kind of, that way you can really pinpoint the little, the tabs that I was talking about earlier, and also the way that the hardware ends up looking.
All right, so we'll see if this angle ends up working out because I don't have the steadiest hand, so bear with me, but hopefully it does work out for future wear and tear videos. But I don't have the bag stuffed. It doesn't have an organizer in there either. And as you can see, the edges almost end up caving in, which is totally normal. That's just the silhouette of the Speedy, whether it's the 25, the 30, the 35, or the 40, they all have this, although I feel it's a little bit more noticeable on the 25. And I also wanted to point out the glazing because the glazing, when I first got it, it was a little bit brighter, and just like the Vachetta, as it patinas, it starts to get a little bit darker. And here are the tabs that I was talking about earlier. Right there, you can see them a little bit more. They're a tad more noticeable. And let me just spin it this way so you can see the zipper. There's no discoloration. There are some very slight scratches. Nothing too bad. Nothing too noticeable. And let me just kind of spin it on its side. And this might be a little bit harder to tell. I'm trying to capture the black discoloration that I was talking about earlier on, but you can kind of see it right in the middle. And again, the more and more that you use the bag, especially if you go to use it crossbody with that strap or on your shoulder, you'll start to see that discoloration be a little bit more prominent. But there we go. Once again, the piping, no issues with that kind of sticking out. And overall, I'm very happy with the way that this is kind of patinaed. It still has a ways to go, but it's very even. And there, once again, you can see those tabs kind of sticking out a little bit more. And there we go. And one more thing I forgot to mention. The luggage tag does not come with the bag. This is something that I bought separately. Just to give it a little bit more personalization.
As far as the strap goes, I think it's aged pretty well. I don't have a very even patina because when I go to coil it, you guys can see a bigger difference. On this side, it is a little bit darker than on this side, but of course, the more and more that I use it, the darker that it'll end up getting. And just like my handbags, I don't use any guards, I don't use any conditioners. I let the oils in my hands do all the work for me. I haven't had any issues with loose stitching or anything like that. There is quite a bit more wrinkling on the leather, which is normal, especially with use. It might not be too noticeable here on the video, but if I kind of turn this way, you can see those lines being a little bit more noticeable, and not to the point where it's going to crack the leather or anything like that. I also wanted to discuss the kind of like the burgundy that you have on the edges of the leather. Now, as you use the bag and as it ages, this burgundy might be a little bit brighter in the beginning, but as it starts to kind of patina, it'll start to get a lot darker. So it gets to that burgundy stage, and it even gets to the point kind of like my Neverfull Azure and my monogram, to the point where it's not even burgundy anymore. It doesn't even have a shade of red. It is just full blown like brown. So that's just something to be expected. And honestly, I look forward to seeing it because I don't know, sometimes when I take a picture of this, the red ends up looking so incredibly bright, but I like it when it has that more like muted kind of burgundy tone to it. And of course, when it gets to that brown, it just means that the bag itself or the leather now has that beautiful honey golden patina that I absolutely love. Now the hardware itself, there are two different types of hardware on the strap, which I will be talking about a little bit later on in the video. And I have some hairline scratches on the ones with the shinier hardware. And as far as the matte hardware, I don't have any issues with them whatsoever. No discoloration, no chipping. And with use, this strap has become even more comfortable to the point where it pretty much almost ends up molding to your shoulder, which I think is incredible because that way the leather doesn't necessarily end up digging into your skin. Whether you're using something that's sleeveless or whether you're using a cardigan or a jacket, I just find it to be very, very comfortable. So I absolutely love this strap. And I also use it with other handbags. And one other thing that I forgot to mention is that I always have it on the same adjustment because the adjustment that I have it on works out perfectly when I go to use it crossbody or when I go to use it on my shoulder. I want to discuss a few more details just in case, just to throw them out there. All right, first things first, the opening. So between the 25, the 30, and the 35, the 25, of course, has the smallest opening. However, throughout the years, it has really relaxed. It's a little bit more generous, not to the point where you can see everything at a glance just because it is still the Speedy silhouette, but I don't find that the zipper is too cumbersome or anything like that. However, I will also have to say that if you do have larger, smaller goods, such as a full-size wallet wallet or a larger cosmetics case, you might have to put them at an angle in order to put them inside of the bag. Now, some people that might be a deal breaker. Some people might find that to be a little too fussy, especially if you're at the checkout. If you take your item out, you don't necessarily want to sit there and say, hold on, I have to put it on its side in order to fit it in comfortably, because that can be very fussy, you know? So in that case, I would recommend going for more compact small leather goods. That's actually what I end up doing with this bag. I prefer to go for compact small leather goods because I feel that way I can still end up accessing my items a lot more, and I can also maximize my space within the bag, especially if I wanted to carry a scarf or something along those lines. So going for smaller or for more compact small leather goods has really worked out for me a lot better than necessarily going for the larger items. Now, I also wanted to talk about the different colors of hardware that this bag has, because the strap and the bag have two different types of hardware. And let me actually put these zipper pulls together so you can see them a little bit better, because on the bag itself, the hardware is a little bit more of a light, almost champagne matte gold type of hardware. You can really see it there on the zipper pulls, and you can also see it here on the rings on the side. But then when it comes to the strap on the D-rings, these guys are a lot shinier. They're a little bit more yellow, but then on the buckle part, you go back to having that matte gold hardware. Now, from what I was told, the reason why Louis Vuitton decided to have two different types of hardware on this bag is because they wanted the hardware to be a lot more durable. Because in the past, they noticed that when it came to this type of material, it ended up chipping a lot faster and you had a lot more discoloration in a short amount of time. Now, do I feel that this hardware is a lot more durable? In my experience, yes. I haven't had too many issues with discoloration. I haven't had any problems with chipping or anything like that, especially for how often I use this bag. But on that same note, I have also heard of a lot of people that have had their bandoulières for, a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and they started to experience a lot of chipping. They started to experience a lot of discoloration in a short amount of time. So I'm curious, what has been your experience when it comes to the bandouliere? Have you noticed that the hardware is a lot more durable, or do you find that it ends up wearing a lot faster? Just let us know in the comment section down below. Would I have appreciated it more if the hardware had a uniform color to it? Yes, absolutely I would have. But if it's for reasons of making it that much more durable, then I am all for it. This bag changed my mind on how I end up seeing bandoulières, because as many of you know, when the style first came out, I wasn't a fan. And I was actually hell-bent on not liking it. I was hell-bent on never adding it to my collection, because the way that I saw it is that they took the original Speedy and they decided to add a strap, and I couldn't understand why they would want to mess with the original. Why mess with something good? So I was like, no, it's not for me. I don't like it. And then I started talking about it a little bit more. I started to do a little bit more research, and the more and more I started to do that, the more and more I started to say, maybe it's not so bad, maybe this, maybe that. And then it ended up making its way to the wish list, and my hubby actually ended up gifting it to me for Valentine's Day. And that's why I said now it's one of my most used bags. And I think it is amazing. One of the things that I appreciate about it the most is the fact that you do have the option to be hands-free. So that same strap that I was not a fan of, because I still like classic Speedies for handheld, as I said before, that same strap, I love it because you have the option to be hands-free and you can still carry that same silhouette that you absolutely love, and it's very, very comfortable. The leather doesn't dig into your skin by any means whatsoever. So the fact that you can incorporate it into your lifestyle various ways, I think is absolutely amazing. I actually have a classic Mon Mono Speedy that I stopped using because of this bag. And every time I want to go for a monogram Speedy, I always end up going for this one just because, again, I like the option of having that versatility if I wanted to either put it on my shoulder, if I wanted to use it crossbody, or if I just wanted to carry it handheld and still have the strap attached. As for the size, I personally prefer the 25 bandouliere on my body frame, and for reference, I am 5'5", just because I don't find it to be too bulbous. And the fact that you still have the Speedy silhouette, you can carry a little bit more or a little bit less. So for the $1 million question, do I still recommend this bag after all these years and after the wear that I have experienced? Yes, 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 1,000,000 times yes. I think that this bag is absolutely fantastic. It is definitely one of my favorites, something that I never thought I would say in a million years, just because, again, I was so adamant about not liking it, but that has definitely changed. So as I've said in the past, never say never, but I just appreciate so many different aspects about this bag. It's so user-friendly, and I love the fact that it is such a workhorse, and the amount of time that I've had it, And for as often as I have used it, I think that it has aged beautifully, at least in my opinion. I love the honey golden patina, but I love, love, love this bag. I've had a lot of you ask me if I'm gonna go for another bandolier in either the Damier Ebene or the Damier Azur, since I'm such a big fan of this style, and I can appreciate them, but I'm here to tell you that I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. And the reason that is kind of like what I talked about throughout the video, that the classic Monogram Speedy, I loved it when I first got it, and I love the colors that I chose, but once this one came along, I kind of tossed that one to the side just because I end up gravitating towards the 25 bandolier all the time. And I really don't want that to happen to the classic Damier Azur, because that is one of my forever pieces, and I still get super, super giddy every time I use it. And when it comes to the bandolier in the Damier Ebene, the funny thing is that Damier Ebene is actually my favorite print from Louis Vuitton. I love the fact that it's the original. I love how understated it is in comparison to the monogram. And I also appreciate the fact that it is carefree, but because it does have the color treated leather, I don't find it to be the most comfortable when I go to use it either crossbody or on my shoulder. I find that the leather ends up digging into my skin a little too much. I think it would be okay if I was to wear like a jacket or a sweater, but for the most part, I just don't find it to be too comfortable. So that's why I don't foresee myself getting a bandolier in the Damier Ebene or the Damier Azur, but I definitely appreciate them. All right, I also wanted to incorporate some mod shots, and for reference, I am 5'5". So that does it for my wear and tear video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope I was able to give you a little bit more information, especially if you're looking to add this bag to your collection. But again, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure and give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already and you would like to, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you guys later. And as always, make it a fabulous day or not, the choice is yours. Have a great day.